And welcome everybody to Faith Nation. I'm David Brody.
And I'm Jenna Browder. Today on Faith Nation, we'll take a look at how celebrity culture plays into politics. And we'll break down some of the controversy around Fire and Fury, a new book about the Trump White House.
That's right, we're going to have all that, so much more, Jenna, so much more. So make sure you share Faith Nation with your friends here on Facebook. Look, I don't know how to do it, but there's a button somewhere on Facebook, and I think it says share. So
share, like.
So am I a millennial? I don't know how to do. Share it, though.
Do what you got to do. But first, it is a sight, well, we've never seen in Washington.
Yeah, I think that would be accurate. A bipartisan group of lawmakers gathered to talk immigration Tuesday, and cameras were left in the room to capture the conversation.
And President Trump was at the helm leading the negotiation. For nearly an hour, Democrats and Republicans went back and forth on immigration reform and what it should look like.
About a clean DACA bill now, and with a commitment that we go into a comprehensive immigration reform procedure like we did back, I remember when Kennedy was here.
I have no problem. I think that's basically what Dick is saying. We're going to come out with DACA. We're going to do DACA, and then we can start immediately on the phase 2, which would be comprehensive.
Would you be agreeable to that?
Yeah, I would like to do that.
Mr. President, you need to be clear, though. I think what Senator Feinstein's asking here, when we talk about just DACA, we don't want to be back here 2 years later. You have to have security, as the Secretary would tell you.
But I think that's what she's saying.
And the president says it's up to Congress to finalize details of an immigration plan, and that even if the plan includes things he doesn't love, he will sign it.
Well, and for more on this, we are joined by Rick Klein, ABC News political director. Rick, great to see you.
Thanks, David.
Cemented with a handshake.
There you go.
Well, I don't even know where we begin. Historic to see that you guys, ABC News, you guys were the pool.
Yeah, my colleague John Carl was in the room, and no expectations. It was called in at the last minute thinking it would just be a brief photo op, which happens all the time at the White House. You come in, there's a couple of canned lines and pleasantries, and then the real work goes on. And the president, by all accounts, just allowed the press to stay on his own. And over the course of an hour, you saw not just talking points, although there were some of those, but actual real negotiations. You had the president committing and then not committing a little bit and maybe contradicting himself, we can talk about. But bottom line, engaging in meaningful dialogue, actual conversation, actual negotiation with members of Congress live on television.
Historic, would you say?
I'd never seen anything like it. Now, I remember the Obama years early on. In particular, there were some forums, but those were a lot more stilted, more canned performances to my mind, and Q&A sessions. Yeah. This seemed like the real deal. This seemed like the president just trying to make a deal.
What do you think his real goal was here? It seemed like a multi-layered approach.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think one piece of the context that you can't ignore is the fact that the book comes out just a week ago that questions his mental capacity, frankly, and you had aides talking openly about that. And I think he said over the weekend he's a very stable genius. Guess what? What better way to demonstrate that than to show a command of the facts, a command of the issues, a part of negotiations actively engaged over the course of an hour. And look, he made clear, I think, in terms of the issue at hand, which is a critical one for Republicans, for the country, around immigration, he's trying to reset the deck. He said, look, I don't care what kind of deal you guys cut, I'm going to sign it. He's got some bottom lines, he's got some negotiating positions, but he wants to engage on that. And I think given the pitched battles and the rivalries that are out there, he's trying to set a new political tone for Washington here at the start of the year.
You know, it makes you wonder about what Democrats think of all of this. I mean, will this get Democrats back to the table in terms of what Trump did to them, and to a degree the GOP yesterday? But I remember Steny Hoyer looking at one point going, the cameras are still here. I mean, you're killing me, Mr. President.
Well, I think they were as stunned as anyone else. Republicans in the room too. No one expected this to play out the way that it did. They heard, though, a president committing openly to extending the status for the so-called Dreamers under DACA. They took away from that the real possibility of even a pathway to citizenship for Dreamers, which a lot of conservatives think is anathema. They think that's basically amnesty. So they took all that information, I think, and now go back to the hard work of their own negotiations inside of Congress with the president's words on the record. And I think I've talked to a couple of Democrats in the last 24 hours that feel like, well, maybe there is something here. Now, they're very hesitant because they know the president could contradict, and he's attacking people on Twitter again today, including Dianne Feinstein, over an unrelated matter. So, you know, whatever deals he may have cut yesterday, they don't have the force of law. But it is, in terms of setting the groundwork for an intense series of negotiations, it's something.
Very interesting.
All right, Rick, we'll be right back with more in just a few minutes.
Thanks. I appreciate it, Rick. All right. Well, I guess we're going to have to turn to the Golden Globes. Which
we're doing Golden Globes.
Yeah, I think we are. Well, during Sunday night's Golden Globes, there was a person on stage, was there not?
Yeah, Oprah Winfrey was awarded the Cecil B. DeMille, is that how you say that?
Cecil B. DeMille.
Cecil B. DeMille Award. Her speech got rave reviews, with some now calling for her to run for president in 2020.
Well, you know, it isn't the first time people have suggested Oprah run as a potential presidential candidate. Take a look at what Donald Trump told CNN back in 1999. Have a look.
You have a vice presidential candidate in mind?
Well, I really haven't gotten quite there yet.
It's
I
about,
guess
it's just,
Oprah, I love Oprah. Oprah would always be my first choice.
Oprah.
Oprah, your competitor, right? Your
No,
competitor.
Oprah's a competitor
You know what?
with no
I'll tell you, she's really a great woman, though. She is a terrific woman. She's somebody that's very special.
And that was Donald Trump back in 1999. So what does he have to say about all of this now?
Well, he always has something to say, does he not? He weighed in yesterday. Have a look.
Yeah, you know, Oprah would be a lot of fun. I know her very well. You know, I did one of her last shows. She had Donald Trump, this is before politics, her last week. And she had Donald Trump and my family. It was very nice. No, I like Oprah. I don't think she's going to run. I don't think she's going to run. I know her very well.
And we'll look at more at President Trump's comments in just a minute. But first, Ben Kennedy joins me now in the social seat, filling in for Amber Strong. Ben, what are people saying about all of this?
Yes, first, prayers for Amber. She's a bit under the weather, which is why I'm filling in today, very graciously. Guys, we've been talking about, mainly people are commenting about Fire and Fury. Some have read, some have not. We have Cindy saying, look, it's a book extension of the National Enquirer, so clearly she doesn't see much truth in it. And David, on the flip side, says, you know what, it is a good book, and it should be read by everyone.
Huh.
So you have a little bit about both sides here.
Yeah. I would think more negative comments than positive.
So far, we've had
with
two
this
comments. People talking about negative, people are signing off because of the Golden Globes. Some people are just kind of over these award shows between the Oscars or the Golden Globes, seeing people who might be kind of out of touch being awarded statuettes. So a lot of comments about that, as well as the book.
All right, well, we want you to weigh in, so go ahead and comment. Should celebrities weigh in on politics? Share your thoughts. Ben Kennedy will be here connecting with you throughout the show and reading the comments as they come in.
All right, well, let's get back to Rick, who, oh, look, you've stayed, so thank you. Thank you. Oprah, Trump, celebrity politics. You think this has staying power? Where are we going here, Rick?
You know, it strikes me that there's a long history of celebrities in politics, and it's not just Trump. You could go back to George Washington. He was a big celebrity. Andrew Jackson was very famous because of his exploits in the war, I think, of 1812. And I think you could take that through Charles Lindbergh. There was buzz around him running for president. He's really the most famous man in the world at the time. So there's a lot of talk around this that I think is inevitable. I think the fact that you finally had a celebrity that, you know, really a pure celebrity in Donald Trump, celebrity businessman, entrepreneur, who made that jump, no political background, no military experience, first time in our nation's history that you had someone like that. I feel like that's opened the door to other booms and boomlets. And Oprah, to me, we'll see, it's going to be in her head, obviously, if she decides to do it, but Mark Cuban and the head of Starbucks, I mean, there's going to be other people from the world of business.
West.
Yeah, sure. Why
Alec
not?
Baldwin, I think.
Oh, goodness
My
gracious.
goodness, yeah.
I
I feel like you're going to have a lot of people talking about this, and it actually, I think there's something in political dynasties and the celebrity around that, the Kennedys, the Bushes.
Yeah.
There's something I think in the American spirit that gravitates toward people that are very well known, and I think it's telling because she didn't actually say I'm running or I'm thinking about running. She just gave a speech that a lot of people liked on a televised award show, and the immediate reaction was she's running, she's running, she's running. She's not there yet.
The president's daughter, Rick, Ivanka, she tweeted about Oprah's speech in support of it. What does this kind of mean?
I was surprised by that, and the reporting is that she didn't really consult with people before doing that. She felt strongly about it herself, and she occupies a unique space in this White House as a senior advisor to the president, also someone who is advising the president often on more liberal, Democratic-leaning positions. She hasn't prevailed so much on that front, and speaking out on behalf of women. I mean, her condemnation of Roy Moore, even when her dad was about to endorse him for the Senate seat, I think spoke very loudly. So it seems like she did this on her own. I wouldn't interpret this as her supporting an Oprah presidency, but in terms of the message that Oprah Winfrey delivered the other night, it does seem like Ivanka Trump is on board.
Speaking about Oprah, what do you think? You really think she's going to run?
I'm skeptical, but I was also skeptical about Donald Trump for a long time. So I think it's more likely than I thought it was at the time that Donald Trump would run, but I was entirely wrong about that. She's going to have to decide is it right for her? I mean, she would be a game changer in so many ways in politics because of her name recognition, her positive ID, the celebrity that she has, the money she has, the background that she brings. We haven't really seen anything like that.
Could you even imagine Trump versus Oprah?
No.
I mean, what?
How would that play out? What would that look like?
I can't imagine. I feel like you'd have to kind of turn over the reins of the political unit that I lead to people that actually understand what's going on in the country if that happens.
I tell you what. Well, you know, you got little Marco on line Ted with a no O. I mean, I don't know what he's going to. What's that?
Sloppy Steve.
Sloppy Steve.
I think that's the
But even
latest.
the background with President Trump, I mean, saying at one point that she'd be a great running mate. I mean, it's all kind of wrapped up in that.
Yeah.
All right, well, stay with us. We've got one last topic to talk about.
All right, well, Fire and Fury, the new book, has caused quite a stir in Washington. But is it more fiction than fact? Next.
Israel and the Middle East, center of the world for thousands of years, and still creating headlines that reach back to the Bible. Hosted by award-winning correspondent Chris Mitchell, Jerusalem Dateline brings a Christian perspective to events that literally change history. Whether it's the front lines or underground, Jerusalem Dateline is your window to Israel, Jerusalem, and the Middle East. Contact us at the address on your screen.
All right, Ben Kennedy with us now again. Ben, do people have anything to say about this Oprah?
Why are you looking at me?
They do. No, they do. No, I was actually looking at Rick, who's off camera right now, kind of chiming in about the Oprah comment. But yes, we have John Ford saying Oprah would be a mistake if voted as president. Yvonne, I think she might be for Oprah. She said, you know what, she might not waste her time and her money pursuing to be the president.
Did you say Ivana?
Yvonne, Y-V-O-N.
Oh, Yvonne. Okay, I wasn't sure
I might
who
have
was
pronounced it incorrectly.
Ivana Trump weighing in.
And a final comment was just 2 words. Lisa wrote Ronald Reagan, and she brought up a good point there. He's an actor. He was I believe, the 33rd governor of California, 40th president. So is this becoming a trend? And I think that's something you talked to Rick about.
Yeah.
Is our celebrities, are people sick and tired of politicians, and are they turning to celebrities who a lot of people turn to for their comments and their opinions on big political issues?
You know, I think Oprah really has to weigh it for herself. She has such a positive idea, as Rick was saying, that is it worth it for her? You know, is it worth to be dragged through the mud like this, to be kind of demeaned? I mean, it's a very grueling process to run for office.
Well, that's a really good point, because Trump already had a lot of that out in the open. We already knew that about Trump. Oprah's got this pristine, you know, it's Oprah. You know, and she's got this heavenly approach and feeling to her. So look, it's going to be, if she ever got in, it'd be Oprah and then a minus factor from there. I mean, you can't go anywhere up, I think, from where she's at now. So that's got to be something that would weigh heavily on anybody, even Oprah.
Yeah. All right, well, a fall from political grace just months after losing his job at the White House. Steve Bannon is now stepping down from his role at Breitbart News. Bannon served as White House chief strategist when Trump took office. He was let go then from the White House position and then returned to his previous role at Breitbart over the summer. And Bannon's Breitbart departure comes just days after President Trump slammed him for comments he made in the new book, Fire and Fury.
Well, that's right, Jenna. After some excerpts from the book were released, President Trump issued a statement saying Steve Bannon has nothing to do with him or his presidency, and that Bannon had, yes, lost his mind.
Amber Strong shows us what Bannon said that led to a really strong Trump counterpunch.
Reporter Michael Wolff's book, Fire and Fury Inside the Trump White House, has lived up to its title, bringing fire to former chief strategist Steve Bannon and eliciting fury from the president. I've had to put up with the fake news from the first day I announced I'd be running for president. Now I have to put up with a fake book, Trump tweeted. So what's in the book? Wolff paints the story of a White House in disarray, pointing to members of the administration openly questioning the president's ability and mental fitness.
The people in the White House are like everybody else in the country. What's going to happen here? We don't know from day to day.
Chief strategist Steve Bannon is the star of the book. Wolff details conversations in which he claims Bannon questioned Donald Trump Jr., Jared Kushner, and Paul Manafort's decision to meet with a Russian attorney during the campaign. Bannon is quoted as saying the meeting was, quote, treasonous and unpatriotic. Wolff gathered some of his accounts by simply sitting in the White House and listening. He says members of the administration, including the president, failed to say their comments were off the record.
We would speak. I'm sure he didn't think they were interviews.
This isn't the first time that's happened. Remember Anthony Scaramucci's comments to The New Yorker? Wolf admits he didn't speak with the vice president or members of the cabinet before writing the book. President Trump slammed the work and threatened legal action.
I think furious, disgusted would probably certainly fit when you make such outrageous claims and completely false claims against the president, his administration, and his family.
Bannon has since issued an apology of sorts, telling Axios, quote, Donald Trump Jr. is both a patriot and a good man, and his remarks were aimed toward Manafort. Fellow journalists are questioning some inaccurate details in the book and Wolf's use of all-inclusive statements.
I believe parts of it, and then there are other parts that are factually wrong.
Like the claim the president didn't know who former House Speaker John Boehner was, or that 100% of the president's family members question if he's fit for office. Regardless of the president's fury and questions from the media, the book equals money in the bank for Wolf. Orders of Fire and Fury are backlogged.
And Rick Klein back with us. Hey, Rick, Fire and Fury. First of all, okay, as a journalist, the first thing I was thinking, how in the world did he get to the White House? What in the world?
The access is incredible. I mean, he talked about how he, early on in the White House, just was hanging out in the West Wing. And you guys have been there, and it's kind of cramped quarters. And if you're able to just sit there and have a pass that allows it, no one's going to bother you, and you can see all the players walk past. It's shockingly small. I always tell people it's like a small corporate office. It's nothing like you'd imagine where the world is being run out of the White House.
Over there,
yeah,
right?
so to be able to witness all of that firsthand as he appears to have, it is remarkable.
What is your sense about how Trump plays the media overall on this? Because, you know, there is a school of thought, and I have bought into this at times, that he has been playing the media to a degree like a fiddle. He knows the media. I feel at times he may be one step ahead of the media because you have to keep, the way he sees it, if the media is the enemy, you got to keep the enemy off balance. And he sure does that.
He understands the medium, and he's understand the medium of the press for 30, 40 years in public life, going back to the New York tabloid days and right through today and Twitter. He understands this business. I've said to my colleagues, he understands it better than we do in TV, better than our bosses do. He understands the kind of metabolism of the media, and I think you saw it yesterday in the event in the cabinet room where he invites everyone in, and I think you even see it in his handling of this book. Yes, he erupted in anger over this. He announced Steve Bannon. He filed a lawsuit against the publisher, but I think there's an element to this of relishing what the role is, and he obviously authorized some access, we believe, to Michael Wolff and talked to him at least at some point, according to Wolff. But I do think he understands the way this plays, and I think I agree with you that it's often a step ahead of where the coverage is.
Let me ask you one last question before you get out of here. Look, Michael Wolff book, who knows, 60%, 90% true, who knows what the percentage is? But if you're not 100% accurate in your book, I'm wondering how that affects kind of the mainstream media, and Trump wants to play the fake news card all the time. I mean, this plays right into his hands to say, hey, you don't know what you can believe out there.
His standards are not our standards, they're not your standards. And what I tell people all the time is, I encourage people to read widely, consume news widely, watch everyone, read everyone, understand where they're coming from, and understand that you're going to be free as an American to make judgments about all of those things. And you should understand that, yeah, people have different standards. Some are opinion columnists, some are opinion hosts, people that are right down the middle. I think you need to understand all of that and understand where they're coming from. And in that sense, I think Wolff was pretty honest that not everything in there is going to be 100% accurate. And again, it's not a book I'd write, not a book that ABC News would put on the air, but it comes from him, and I think you have to understand the source.
Rick Klein, a pleasure, sir. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
A handshake to cement it all.
You know it.
It's now official.
You got it.
Thanks, Rick.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Rick. We're getting a lot of comments from all of you. It's great. Keep them coming. Ben, one that I found pretty interesting. This is from Kathy. The next presidential race is going to be, all caps, ugly.
Ugly. 2020.
Yeah.
So we have about 3 years until we hit that mark. And I think people are really interested in the Oprah factor, Jenna. Specifically, one Cheryl commented, celebrities are hypocrites and aren't open to the truth. Oprah would not be a good president. And Rose added that, yes, Ronald Reagan was a celebrity, but he wasn't president in the times that we are now with all these sexual harassment allegations. So it's a very different time as a celebrity if they choose to run as the commander-in-chief.
Yeah, all right, thank you, Ben. Well, coming up, Faith in the Spotlight. The folks at FaithWire will join us to show how some are using their fame to talk about their faith.
I want it to be God. I want it to be Christ.
Hey there! Make sure you check out my new uplifting Christian entertainment show, Studio 5.
Well, this week, the University of Alabama became the college football national champions. Exciting game. Since throwing the game-winning touchdown, a lot of media attention is focusing on Alabama's freshman quarterback.
And since the game, the young football star is using his newfound fame to point back to really his faith. Now, earlier today, I got the chance to talk to Dan Andros and Billy Hallwell of FaithWire about how this quarterback is using his celebrity status to really share the message of God. Take a listen. Dan and Billy, NFL quarterbacks Carson Wentz, Drew Brees, Kirk Cousins, Cam Newton, even former quarterback Tim Tebow. How is God using those guys on the field?
It's remarkable when you see what's going on in the NFL. I mean, for all the controversy they've had with the people kneeling for the flag and that negative attention that they brought on themselves, we can't overlook. There's so many of these star quarterbacks, the top positions, so many of them are outspoken Christians. It's really unbelievable. And at least for me, I mean, I'm a Redskin fan. So for me, you know, I don't really like the Eagles, but it's hard for me not to cheer for them this year because if you look at what Carson Wentz and then the other players on that team, I mean, they're doing baptisms in the hotel and all those sorts of things. So I think when we're seeing people of faith living out their faith so boldly in these positions like NFL quarterback, you know, we just can't get enough of it.
Especially when they could easily put the praise on themselves and they choose to put it on God. I mean, Demario Davis, there's lots of other players who are out there talking about faith. And I think what's interesting is that has increased. And I think God has had a role in that, increasing the presence of that at a time when we're all focused on who's kneeling, who's not kneeling. There's that whole debate going on. And yet here we are, so many of us in media focusing in on the faith of these players. I think that's really fascinating to kind of rise above all that other debate and focus on what really matters.
I know you guys work really hard at FaithWire. You do a lot of stories on celebrities using their platforms to promote their faith. What's the appeal to those kind of stories to your readers?
Well, you know, I think obviously people are just interested in watching what happens with culture because I think we all know that politicians are always led by culture. I always say they're too cowardly to lead on their own, and sort of it takes culture to drive them. So people are very interested in what culture and prominent people in culture are doing. And for us, I think it's just great to show where, because we can be overwhelmed by the negativity that's going on in culture and the increasing secularness and the hostility towards faith, but it's easy to overlook the people who are making a wave for God in the culture at large, and it's happening in a big way. And so for us, I think we just want to make sure that people aren't missing that.
Yeah, and I think people react to it because they're so we're so desperate to see good things coming out of Hollywood, particularly in the last 4 or 5 years, watching what's happened with TV and film and just sort of the content going a certain way. I think when there's a Christian out there or there's somebody speaking about faith, people are really attracted to it, and those stories do well because of that. And I say desperation in sort of a positive way. We're looking for something, and so there's a light there, and we're able to shine that, and I think people want to see that stuff.
And guys, here in D.C., we talk about the most powerful political power players, but then you have celebrities like Justin Bieber, Selena Gomez, who have a combined, some 200 million followers on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. What kind of impact can these celebrities, let's go specific, Justin and Selena, have on sharing God's message?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in particular fascinated. I mean, I'm not a Justin Bieber music fan. I mean, I don't follow his music, but I'm very fascinated by his faith journey because obviously we know he started with a bit of a rocky start in the media world where he had these different incidents with police and drugs and that sort of thing. But his bounce back has been really incredible.
I think what we've seen with Justin Bieber is that he's made this move in a really positive direction, and people are extra interested in him because of that level of celebrity. So he could have a huge impact. And I think what Dan just mentioned is one example. We're seeing him put things on Instagram, worshiping, writing things on whiteboards about God. Those are things that really all the people are looking at him, all the young people, and he has a real opportunity there. So I'm hoping we continue to see him and others move in that direction because they do have a responsibility, I think, as Christians to put that message out there.
So bottom line, there really is an appetite for those positive stories featuring famous people. If you look down at cbnnews.com or here at CBN News Facebook page, there is consistently the most popular stories.
Yeah.
2 words, guys. Tim Tebow. You put him on a story,
Yeah.
I
It
click on it.
sells.
I watch the video.
Oh, we know you
Our
do.
producer Shoshana watches the video.
Yeah.
We love him.
It sells. It sells. Well, my goodness, what a week it has been. It has just been crazy here in Washington, D.C. with Oprah, with everything else that's going on, that cabinet meeting. David, you and I had a bit of a front row seat yesterday.
We did. We were actually in the West Wing while this meeting was going on. We weren't obviously in there. Jonathan Karl on ABC News was the pool. But we were there to meet a, how do I say this, a high-ranking administration official. I just like to lower my voice when I say that.
So dignified.
Yes. Well,
so
we were there.
Sophisticated.
Well, we were there in the West Wing, and while we were there, we actually saw the whole, all of the pool, and there were about 20, 25 or so photographers still and video, or one video, but mostly still, go into the room. And then when we were done with this meeting, they were all coming out. So we kind of just saw the beginning and end of it. And then, of course, you all saw the middle, which is interesting video.
Yeah, they were in there about an hour. It was a long pool.
Yeah, for sure.
But one thing that was interesting, we actually ran into the vice president in the hallway. And so that was great running into him. And you never know who you're going to see at the White House.
Well, it was funny because we were actually going up the stairs
Yeah.
to meet this person, and then we weren't going to bother him. He's the vice president. He's got better things to do. But then all of a sudden he calls out to us.
He saw David Brody.
Whatever. And then basically said, hey, how's the book coming along? We'll talk more about the book later. I have a book coming out next month. And then that got us into a conversation. So it was kind of neat to meet the vice president. But, you know, hey, business is business. We were there for business.
There for business.
We had access, though.
We should make the point, though, that that's really why we do this show, is that it's all about access, and we have a lot of access to this administration and to Washington right now, people here, and so that's the reason that we put on the show for you every Wednesday.
Well, I would just say this, access plus God's favor, and definitely God's favor before the access.
Oh,
access doesn't happen without God's favor.
It's crazy. God's favor is
For
amazing.
sure,
Yeah.
for sure. All right, well, I guess that's going to do it for Faith Nation.
Yeah.
What can I tell you? We've run out of material, Ben. You're right. But obviously, stick around. We're on Facebook and all of that. Keep your comments coming. I guess you want those comments to keep coming.
Keep coming. And Sophia says Tim Tebow should be president. So
there you go. Maybe Tim Tebow. Oprah. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Have a great Wednesday.